3, 2, 1. Masterclass Abstract Art.
Good evening to my Charger friends. Good evening, Charger friends. I am glad to see you, and I'm excited to be able to do this. I'm used to teaching every single day, a lot of times during the day, and so when I don't get to do that, it just does not feel right. So when I had the opportunity to teach this live class, I was really excited. So, or you get to chime in later and try it. If at any point you feel like you're struggling with one of the steps or you need more time, I've been told that you'll be able to get on later and look back and see the steps again if you need to. Now, I have a few helpers today that some of you might recognize, and they are going to be working off to the side, and I will bring them in every now and then so you can see their progress. Does that sound good? Let me introduce you. All right, can you come over, friends and helper? I have two today. One of them, I have my daughter Alwyn, who's in the pre-K, and she's going to be working with somebody you might know, Mr. B. Now, Mr. B is a singer. He does the singing. That is his art. But visual art, he gets a little bit nervous about.
That's an understatement.
That's an understatement. So I promised him that this was easy enough that he could handle it. So they're going to be working collaboratively. You guys know that word. I love to use it. Working together on their smaller canvas. All right, we'll get set up.
Good luck.
So I sent out a list of supplies that you'll need. Let me grab mine right here. I have tissue paper, and I have all different colors. And if you have patterned tissue paper or shiny tissue paper, metallic, pastels or brights, it doesn't matter. It's just what you have, so that's great. I have my pair of scissors. Now, for my little friends or people that want organic shapes, you don't even need scissors. You'll be tearing. And I'm going to have Alwyn and Mr. B do the organic shape tearing so you can see, because Mr. B and scissors, I promised it would be easy, so I feel like the tearing will go better for him. He needs all the help he can get, he just said. So we're going to give them the help. So they're going to be in charge of organic shapes and tearing, and then I will be doing more of the geometric with the cutting. So tissue paper, scissors. I have my canvas behind me. I got a large one so you can see. Mr. B and Alwyn are going to work on a smaller canvas so that you can see that this looks good on any size. And I had you grab any kind of white glue or decoupage, Mod Podge. Mod Podge and white glue are basically going to be the same thing. This stuff just gives you a little bit more of a finish when it dries, but ultimately it's going to look the same. So any kind of white glue ready to go. Now there's something I didn't mention that I think might be helpful to you. And if you have a spoon, plastic, metal, it doesn't matter because this is glue, it'll come clean. It might help you to spread a little bit because the tissue paper will bleed, the color will run a little bit. If you don't want a messy finger, then a spoon is helpful. And parents, keep in mind, I'm working on a vertical, on an easel, but you might, I highly suggest you have your child work on a flat surface because that way they can put a little bit of glue on the canvas, rub it in with a spoon or a finger, and then lay the tissue paper. And if you don't want them to be too messy, then they don't need to rub it in to have the colors run. They can just leave it laid on flat. So let me say that again, okay? A spoon, if you have it, that will help them to spread the glue. And I recommend you lay it flat on the ground. If you're working on your own, students and children, hear this carefully, make sure you have a pre-approved spot to lay this. So in case the tissue does have some bleeding happening, it doesn't stain anything that your parents will say, why did you do that? So heads up, parents and children, make sure where you lay your canvas, maybe not on your bed, that might not be the best spot. Find a safe spot where you can lay it flat on the ground. Flat on the ground will keep it from being as messy. It's easier to spread, but make sure wherever you lay it down, red alert, it's in a spot your parents would say that's a perfect spot for this art project. Mr. B, are you laying it flat on your surface? Yes. He says yes.
Yes.
Do you have your spoon and glue?
Yes.
I have mine. You do not need scissors, Mr. B. You're doing organic shapes. I have my scissors. And you have your tissue paper, right?
Got it.
Okay. Now, here's the thing I want to tell you first before we get started. Organic shape versus geometric. Organic is free-flowing. It doesn't have basic straight edges, corners, and sides. So organic is just kind of a shape you'd go, what is that? And it's kind of winky wonky, wacky. These are words that I'm making up. These are not actual words. But I find that when I start making up words, then they exist. My art students know wonky is a word that I use all the time when talking about abstract art. So here's an example. I just tore this randomly. So that would be an example of your organic shape. And on the canvas behind me, you can see where I actually cut straight edges, and that's more of a geometric shape, okay? So and if you want to mix, you can. So let's talk colors. Mr. B, you need to be discussing this with Alwyn. This is important. What do you want this to feel like? Just like Picasso had his blue period and his rose period, one for sad, one for happy, you need a feeling. Abstract, remember, is about the feeling and the emotion that the piece is conveying. Cool colors. Think about water, blues, greens. Those are your cool colors. And then you have your warm colors. Think hot like the sun. So oranges, yellows, reds. And you need to kind of decide, am I wanting that? Now, some of you, let me get one thing straight. You are neither cool nor warm. You are everything under the sun and the water. So if you want to mix and do any kind of warm and cool combination, you can. I just want you to realize that there are options when you categorize your colors. It can give you a different feeling. So if you want that kind of cool, calm feeling, you're going to go towards your blues and your greens and your purples. If you want this kind of hot, vibrant, then you're going to think more of your yellows, your oranges, and your reds. If you are one like me that says all colors are fabulous together no matter what, then you can just kind of mix as you go. Something else to consider, black, just like Mondrian did his black edges on his abstract art, black can make the color pop and more exciting. So consider black as a highlight. Mr. B, what did you guys decide on? Are you cool, are you warm, or are you just kind of everything?
We're going more cool tones.
Cool tones.
Cool tones, some pinks.
I was gonna say there's no way with Alwyn that you're not doing cools with a splash of pink.
Let's be real, those were my choices.
Mr. B loves pink. In fact, his favorite color is purple. Is it still?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's gonna have purple.
My favorite color are these.
Okay, and I'm gonna choose to just go with what I want as I go. Sound good? All right, let's get started. I've talked enough. Now, remember that my canvas is on the easel, so I'm up and down. So I'm gonna be dipping my paper in the glue in a bowl. However, you don't need to do that. If you have your spoon, you'll just get a scoop out, or if you have white glue, you can just kind of squeeze some on your canvas, spread it around, and then lay your piece, okay? So let me stand up now. I started with green, and so I'm gonna move on to kind of my deep purple, kind of an indigo. I'm gonna cut. And abstract, remember, is just what it is. It's about shapes, colors, and lines. It's not a particular thing or image. So you just kind of go with what you're feeling. So I'm cutting a shape. Got my shape. And Mr. B's going to start tearing with Alwyn on theirs. You may start. And I'm going to, once again, I'm dipping mine. You don't need to dip yours. You can lay yours straight on the canvas. Let me show you. Get a scoop. Lay it on the canvas. Yours will be flat, and kind of smear it around. A lot of glue is fine, but you don't need a disaster, right? You guys know how I feel about that. But you can have quite a bit. Now, when you get your piece and you've covered it with some glue, and I'm going to be way messier than you should because I'm on a vertical line here, but I lay it on where I want it and I start to smooth it. You guys will recall when I talk about putting collage, and this is basically collage because we're adding something to our art, our canvas. I like it to lay flat. If you wad it up and put it on there, friends, it's not going to stay very well. Some people do, but those are experts, and we want to lay ours flat as we can. Now, the more you rub this with your fingers, the more color will spread. Okay, does that make sense? Tissue paper will bleed, and bleed not like we bleed, thank goodness. It bleeds, meaning the color will spread out from the tissue with the glue because it's wet. So as I spread out, it'll start to make the color come away from the tissue and on the canvas. Now, some of you say, oh no, I don't want that. That is not enough control. With glitter, glue, glitter works on everything. Glitter works on your clothing, it works as spray on your arms, and it works on your art. So yes, glitter glue would work. In fact, it will be fabulous, and I need to see that. If you do not like the color spreading out, then when you have it flat and you lay your piece on, don't mess with it too much. When you spread it to flatten it on the canvas, don't go past the edge of the tissue paper, and it won't spread out the color or bleed as much, okay? Sound good? I like mine to kind of go everywhere, so I'm going to spread mine. Mr. B, are you guys going to have yours spreading out, or are you going to keep it?
Yeah, we're spreading something really beautiful.
So are you going to have the color smeared?
Sure yet.
They don't know yet. We'll find out. And then I go to my next. If you want more of a color, then you stick with that and color or cut another shape. Okay, cut another shape that you like. Get your spoon with glue. Don't dip like I am. I know I'm sad that I'm telling you not to do what I'm doing, but I promise it's much easier. And if you want shapes to overlap, please, the colors will show through the tissue, and sometimes you'll see them start to blend. So if you take your yellow and green, you might have a blue where they connect and overlap, and that's a really fun look. Make sure your edges are really stuck down. And if you need to add more glue to the top, you have your spoon. What? Ooh, this is looking good, guys. You can come get it. She dropped her blue. Tissue paper likes to move when a fan is on.
Let me turn it off.
No, it's fine. Mr. B is asking if you should turn the fan off. I think we're fine. All right. And like I said, if you don't want these colors smearing out, then keep your smoothing process inside the tissue paper. Okay? Are we seeing this abstract? It's reminding me a bit of our Mondrians, except this is a little more crazy than our Mondrian. Our Kandinskis, our Picassos, where it's just kind of shapes, colors, and lines. I grab my next color. I'm going to have to bring over Alwyn's and Mr. B's in a minute so we can see what they're up to.
We need time, Mama.
Oh, they need time. Well, I'll just do an update. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Now, let me overlap this so you can kind of see what happens. I'm dipping my glue, or my paper in my glue. You're going to pour it on the canvas, remember? Is there a question? Am I making that? Let's do this here. And it's just what I feel as I go.
There's some good on it.
All right, I lay it on. Try not to do this. Sometimes I have kids that get it a little bit wadded up. If it gets too wadded up and you can't help, cut it off and then do another piece. But if you can pull it up and pull it and stretch it out, laying it as flat as possible is fine. The nice thing about using tissue and making this more of a collage is that you can cut some pieces and lay them out. And if you don't like it, you don't put it. When you paint with oils or tempera or acrylic paints, once the paint is on there, that's it. And if you don't like it, you have to let it dry and paint over it, which Mr. B laughs at me. When I paint, I will paint over my canvas sometimes 5 or 10 times before I keep a painting. Now notice where it's overlapping here. Do you see how you can see some of the pink and some of the blue, and it's hard to see with the glue, but as it dries, it's kind of this mix, and it looks really cool, and it adds kind of that visual texture that we like. So I'm just adding my strips. Let me get an update. Let me get Mr. B. Can you bring over yours? Oh, you guys are on it. Can you bring it over, Mr. B?
Yes.
But first, we need to
They're bringing it. So far, theirs is kind of a monochromatic look, meaning different shades of the same color. So they're working on different shades of blue. So monochromatic meaning all blue but different shades. It's kind of nice. You're getting kind of an abstract where it almost looks like something in an abstract way. All right, keep going. And then mine is just a mix of colors that I like. And once again, remember, if cutting is just too much or you don't like how straight the edges are, then tear away, guys.
Sure.
All right, we're going to get this in here. I've got my piece. Overlap if you want to. And remember, you don't have to cover your whole canvas. Some abstract pieces we've looked at through the years have sections that are white. Sometimes they have literally one black streak across, and that's fine too. Frankenthaler, she worked with her color in abstract work, and it was truly just sections of paint, sometimes where white canvas was never even touched. I say canvas, and she did sheets of it on the floor in a huge way. So I start to do this and cover. I'm using brights. Alwyn and Jamie are kind of, theirs is a little more muted. That's the nice thing, because you get a really different look. And if you want this to smear it out. If you do not want that, then make sure you only rub in the color that you're on, okay? But you know me, I kind of like messy. And I keep rubbing and smearing in there. Looking for my next color. Now remember, let's see if I can find, black helps things to kind of stand out and pop. Mr. B, do you have a black in yours?
No, we don't have any black.
Here's a black for me. I found a black.
Oh, I'm sorry, you are.
What do you think?
I
Oh,
thought you
on your
meant on
face.
it, yeah.
Oh, I'm loving yours. You guys are on it.
Yeah, because ours is looking beautiful because we made the
Yours is
sky
looking
from the blue.
Nice. And here's the great thing. None of these are going to look the same. You could be trying to copy me right now, and it would still turn out different because that's just how this is. And there's no right or wrong. It's abstract. That's the beauty. So black will kind of help things to pop out. So bits of black are fun. And remember, I may not finish this today in my example, but once you have the technique down, it's an easy thing to continue with. I'll have to show you Alwyn's and Mr. B's in a minute. Totally different look. And even on a different shape, they're running theirs horizontally where I'm running mine vertically, and I feel like it gives it a really different look. I'm going to do a giant. I feel like I need a big chunk of, look at this, it's sticking. Guys, this is a real problem. I'm going to do an organic one up in the top. So I'm going to keep tearing the edge. Mr. B, have you liked tearing versus cutting?
Yeah,
You like that?
I think so.
Why do you think you like that?
Because it gives me an excuse for it to not be like symmetrical and perfect.
So it doesn't make you obsess about your straight edges?
Yeah, because I'm kind of a straight edge guy.
He is. He likes things straight and in order, so that this way he doesn't have to sweat making it too straight, right?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yep.
Good. Now I'm going to spread this on. I'm going to get some glue. Mr. B, was I right? Is this easy?
Yeah, so cool.
Alwyn says it's cool. Do you think it's easy, Mr. B?
I think it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah.
Anyone can do it?
Yeah.
I'm going to be excited, you guys. I want to see these when you're done. I hope you
Well,
show
ours
me.
is looking fancy.
Owen says hers is looking fancy. And keep in mind, if you want to do a big section of a color and you don't feel like it covers enough of the canvas, then just keep adding that color in fun little ways.
This is awesome, right?
So I'll get more of my yellow because I wanted more.
This is awesome.
And I'll just come in and just slightly overlap it where I want it and add to it. I don't like that pointed edge, so I'll pull it off and smooth it carefully. Make sure it's not getting wadded up on you. A little bit of wrinkle's fine, but for the most part, you want to try and keep it flat. Okay? Although some of you may have it sticking up some, and I'll think it's fabulous too. We've learned about artists that like to put in their collage work that like literal things, like they'll put tiny dinosaur people on theirs.
Mommy,
Or
no
they'll put-
looking at us.
Okay, babe, or they'll put dried flowers on it, where they have it sticking out. We know that old Jackson Pollock, he used nails from his shop and bits and hard sticks to add to it. So we had texture, so some of you guys might surprise me with your texture. Are we seeing how this is kind of starting to have some stuff happening and it's fun, and you can see as we fill it in, it's going to start doing really cool things. Okay, let me show you an update. Alwyn, can we see your update? I love your colors. So they have done, so they started with the monochromatic blue, but they've added in some pops of the fuchsia, and you have some light pinks and purples coming in. Notice where they blend. Let me get up close. There's a really light pink right through here, and you can see the color just coming through and almost like a speckled, in a way that's speckled, which really adds some fun texture. This is reminding me almost of a sunset. So abstract,
That's
remember?
what we're going for.
Yes. Am I good or what? Remember, abstract can remind you of things or mimic things where they're not even technically as realistic as they should be. So theirs is looking a bit like that. Now, believe it or not, I want more yellow. The yellow is speaking to me.
I would like red.
Now, when you finish this, if you get super excited about it, I recommend that you coat it after it dries. If it's not really stuck, that you coat it one more time with your glue. Or you can buy a Mod Podge spray or just a clear sealer, and you can spray over it, and it'll give it that shine, almost like it's lacquered. Since this is abstract and modern, that high lacquer look is really cool. So a spray and a seal will help you with that. Does that sound good? Is there a question? Am I missing it? Do I click it? You guys, I'm learning as I go. Do I click chat, Mr. B?
Probably.
I'm going to try this. Does overlapping two pieces of the same color make the overlap section darker? It can. It'll kind of do, it depends on how much glue you add, how much rubbing in you do.
Also depends on the color.
It depends on the colors. If you have a light to a dark, then you're going to see a difference from then even a light or a dark to a light and how they interact with each other. So that's the fun thing about this is that it depends very much on the type of tissue you're using. If you're using pastel tissues, you're going to see a lot of different work between the two than if you're using the darks. So it varies a lot. If you have a printed tissue paper, then that's also going to look really different. That's going to look much more like a collage with the printed. Then this is going to look more like paint sections when it's done because they're solid. So that's the neat thing is, like I said earlier, you can do this 10 times with different tissue papers and in different ways with cutting versus tearing and come up with a completely different look every time. That's why it's fun. And doing it on a large canvas, we know, remember our modern contemporary artists, our abstract artists, many times worked on larger canvases. So doing it on a large canvas will sometimes give you a much different feel than if you do it on a smaller canvas. So that can vary the look too. Okay, I'm cutting another shape. Listen, this is exciting.
Yeah, and this is fun.
I told you it's fun. Sometimes you don't believe your mom, do you?
Yep, sometimes.
And I'm going to add on some more pink. I'm liking the pink. I think I'm going to overlap it. Let's overlap it with my yellow, and you can kind of see what it does since one of our questions was asking about the play of the color. So I'll really apply a lot of glue to this section where it's overlapped. And you'll be able to kind of see what that does. And these are lighter colors. We'll see what they do with the lighter colors. Mr. B, is she on a roll now?
She is.
So Mr. B, why don't you help over here for a minute and see if we have any questions. You can scan those and just make sure. You're going to keep gluing and working.
Yes.
And Mr. B can make sure there's no questions that are coming in. Mr. B, how's it looking? What color do I need?
Purple.
Mr. B's favorite, purple. All right.
So where do I see if questions are coming in?
Down at the
There we
bottom,
go.
you see? Mr. B's going to talk to me with questions while I work, if there are any.
Would glitter glue
I got
work?
that. I got
Okay.
the glitter, and I said, you bet it would.
Oh no, we're making people laugh.
What? We are?
We're
Who?
making people laugh. Oh, Amy says that.
Oh, good. Well, I like that. Maybe I'm going to do a big blob of the purple down here for Mr. B. Does that need to be moved? Can they see
Oh
that?
yeah, probably should move that.
In this house, it takes Mr. B helping me with technology. He knows better than to leave me without any help. Okay, I'm going to
You'd be way better off with Amy or Luke.
I'm going to do a big purple section down here for Mr. B. And I'm excited. When you guys work on these and finish them, please, please, please show me, email them to me. I want to see that. Mr. B, stick close in case there's questions. And if there's questions after we're off and you're watching it in archive, you can always email and ask. I'm around, right?
You are.
So are you guys?
Sometimes too often. No, I'm just kidding.
So sometimes, let's get this in. I don't get enough glue, so you're welcome to lift it up. And like I said, I'm a messy artist, so like my fingers are going to be this
And
color.
my fingers are already dry.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. It'll last for a little. They eventually go clean, I promise.
Yeah, I'm like peeling all this junk off.
Yeah. But if you have a little bit of color on your fingers for a few days, I mean, we're not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt anything, right?
No.
And Chargers, I can't wait. If you finish one, you've been so diligent about sending me your art projects that I post online. And I would love to. Good, almost done. I would love to see these if you want to email. That would be fun. All right, I need more purple from Mr. B. That way when people come along and say, tell me about your abstract, because remember we talked about abstract art is also about sending a feeling or emotion or an idea. So when they say, tell us about this, some part of it's going to have to involve Mr. B in my storytelling in the purple part. He loves it.
Like Harold, the purple crayon.
Is that why you like it?
I don't know.
Oh.
How much money to buy Alwyn's canvas?
Ooh, interesting. Millions.
What are you selling it for, kid?
Yeah, it depends on who's asking. If that's a grandparent or a Gigi.
I'm gonna sell it for.
What's your art worth?
Okay, you want to get that one?
Yeah.
I will send it to.
How much?
So it will be
She's thinking. This is a hard question.
$20.
$20.
And I'll sell it to.
Do we need that off, Mr. B?
Yeah.
Mr. B, do we need the question off?
I'm
$20.
gonna sell it to Daddy.
Yeah, they can see.
Oh, good. I thought that was
I'm
black.
selling it to Daddy.
$20.
Hers is pretty.
I about went Austin Powers with it.
Isn't hers pretty?
It's lovely. So lovely.
So I noticed
It's priceless.
this was on the area that I tore from and discarded, but I kind of like the shape. So look at the scraps after you've cut or torn, and sometimes you'll have some really pretty ones mixed in there that you didn't even mean to cut, which is kind of fun. And then you can go in and find a home for it, which I like that.
Let's see what you did there.
Yeah.
See what you did there.
So that's kind of fun.
This has like an aura of like Picasso flowers.
Oh, Mr. B seeing something in it. Remember, and sometimes in abstract, you see something and your neighbor doesn't. It varies.
Deep.
Well, it's true. Okay. So now we come on. I still want a little more yellow.
All right, I'm done.
Are you done? Let's see the final result.
Alwyn's masterpiece.
Did she leave some white?
A little bit, yeah.
I like that. Let's
Some
take
bits
a
of
look.
white.
So you guys can see. So imagine if you, I promise, here's the thing. If you had this in a floating frame on a wall and people walked in your home, they would say, what artist did that? I promise. It would look fabulous.
Can I help with?
What is
Mama?
this one?
This is
Yay,
very
yeah,
impressive.
that looked
Mommy,
nice.
can I help you?
Nope, not right now. Take this, baby.
But there's nothing to canvas now.
I know, you did your
We're
art.
done.
Isn't it
Would you like to go
beautiful?
say goodbye?
Can you say
Would you
goodbye
like to say bye?
to the camera since you were a helper? Thank you for being a helper. I appreciate it. Say bye to everyone.
Bye.
Blow 'em a kiss.
Well, here she comes.
Diva. All right, we're gonna wait. We're gonna let it stay here to dry.
Says bye. So is everyone kind of getting the idea of what we're going to be doing with this? And like I said, I will not finish this as I speak to you. I will continue it and finish it later. And I promise if you take the time to really get in there and cover most of this, leaving some white sections if you want to, I think that's nice. But covering most of this with your patches, once you finish and step back from it, it's pretty amazing what you end up with in terms of just a pretty mix of colors and bright or pastel, depending on the colors. But the reason, like I said, I like to look at them so much when you guys send them to me is because this type of art right here with this collage and the tissue, they can look so different depending on, like I said, the colors of the tissue. And like high quality tissues will not bleed as much as like the cheaper tissue paper. So how much of it is bleeding out and how many are solid, who chose geometric shape versus organics, who has prints versus not. This is one of those that's really fun to see everybody's in design because they vary so much and they're so different. Does that make sense? I'll do a few more and then I will let you artists get to finishing this up. I'm gonna add in a lighter purple to show you. If you have colors like Mr. B and Alwyn did, where they are monochromatic, meaning the same color but just different shades, and you put those together. So like the clumps of the light blue, medium blue, pastel blue, royal blues all together in some areas, it's a really neat effect. So I've got my kind of more my pastel purple with my bright purple there. And if you, pastel's really thin, so if you're having trouble getting it all the glue on, you can just rub some on the top and it'll seep through, and that'll help seal it on the top too. So literally, I'm just rubbing it in on the top. Just be careful you don't tear it if you don't want to as you rub it. Just be gentle. And you can kind of see, once this dries, this purple here will show through, but it'll show through differently than it does here. So it almost looks like I've got 3 purples. I really get it rubbed in up into the screen, and that'll smear and blend too. So is everyone kind of seeing how that works? Is it good? And like I said, when these are done, I'd love to see what you guys have come up with on this project. It's a really fun project, and I think we'll see some great abstract art from you guys. And remember, this is collage too, so you're doing all sorts of great things. Any other questions before we go? Any other questions? Let me make sure I'm learning all of this. Are we good? Okay, it looks like we're good on no questions. And I'm really excited. Let me get my chair over. I'm going to keep working on mine, and I'll have to put it out there somewhere so you guys can see how mine ends up. And thank you guys for joining, and thanks for doing some art with me, and I'm so excited.